New seasoning available from Ace Videos. We've collaborated with him to make him his first cast seasoning. We're gonna try that tonight on our fish and see if we like it. Hopefully we like it because I just put a lot on there. All right, dinner is ready, guys. It's ready. Oh, this is gonna be awesome. All right, one for you, one for you, one for me, one. I don't know if I made 6 pieces of bacon. I did, look at that. All right, we got the bass. You got it, you eat it. Another bass. Crappie. That little bass pretty much disappeared in here.
Hot and doing okay over there?
I hope so. It sounds like it's about to blow.
Steaming.
Steaming.
Is that good?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if we're supposed to take it off or you leave it on. Fairly even.
I've never seen something so amazing in my life.
It looks pretty good.
Thoughts?
Thoughts?
Yeah.
Dude, it looks awesome. Like, do you think when we started today it was gonna end up like this?
Yeah.
No.
No. You were nervous. You were like,
nervous.
no, it's not happening.
No.
It's gonna be a mess.
Yeah. No.
Hey, look where we are, man. We're eating dinner in the cave. We're eating gourmet dinner in the cave. Beauty.
I'm gonna take it off. I'm nervous. I didn't exactly read the manual like any good man. Let it stop steaming and then put it back on again. And it's that time of night. It's that time of night. Alright, so I forgot to hit, I'm just gonna fess up. I forgot to hit record. I had a bite of crappie. So good. Remembered to say grace. So good. Thank you, Lord, for the fish. Or for these guys catching them. Thank you guys for sharing your food with me. And I think I nailed the cook at Ace's Wadobo. Or, yeah, Ace's Wadobo. Ace's first cast has this Cajun-y flavor to it. It just really, oh, it's making this so delicious. And it's so wonderful eating something that's just not one seasoning with just plain fish with the bacon in here and the, ooh. Go out there and give that a try if you haven't tried it before. And our explosive fish head soup. We'll see how that turns out in a little bit. Alright, I am in for the night. Whew, had a little cup of that broth. It was pretty good. And yeah, guys are out there still sitting by the fire. You can see the glow. And it's about 10 o'clock. I'm going to bed. Looking forward to getting up and getting on an early bite. What do you guys think?
Do it.
Lake trout early?
Early lake trout.
Here we go, all rigged up. Oh yeah. Fish on. Fish on. All right. We got our pile of fish that I brought in. We'll throw that in there with the vegetables. You're watching On the Ice, a 5-day winter survival camping adventure in Vermont. The special guest, AP Bassing and the Wooded Beardsman.
Look at that slab.
Holy cow. Fish on. And I'm your host, Zachary Fowler. Good morning. It is a beautiful day in Vermont. You hear that? Snow coming down on the top of our shelter. It's so warm in here, I am fogging the camera up. I made a little furnace thing underneath of me. Candle furnace that I was going to experiment with last night. To see if it would like heat my igloo if I get a chance to build an igloo while we're out here.
I swear I could feel the heat coming off of that up underneath of me. Just a candle and the hood from like a top of a chimney. So I think that would work in a tent, to heat like a tent to make it a little bit more comfortable.
Morning.
No fish.
No fish yet?
No, one line was stripped. That was it.
Oh.
So rebaited. I refreshed up 3 lines.
Yep.
It's not too bad outside. It's not too cold.
No?
Same as yesterday. Slight
Cool.
snow. That's it.
Nice.
Wow, it is so nice in here. I don't want to get up. It's too nice. You got a fish?
He's got a crappie.
He's got a crappie this morning?
Yeah.
Look at that slab.
Holy cow. That thing's huge.
Isn't it?
Look at that. Almost 15-inch crappie there. That is crazy. First thing in the morning.
On the True Grit.
Yeah.
Look at that. The walleye rod. Oh, it swallowed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right down there.
Oh, that's a good start to the day. 1 fish. See if we can get more. And coffee. I want coffee. Nice, warm, delicious coffee. What's up with our fire here? It's looking kind of sad.
Sleeping.
Sleeping.
Yeah.
Taking a...
Wake up.
Come on, fire. Everybody else got out of bed. Get up. I was wondering if it would still be an ice cave in the morning because it was so warm in here, but it is still an ice cave. There's still all the ice. That's wild.
I fed it.
Oh, it might wake up.
Coffee's on. Woo! Put this back on our spice rack here in our glacial cave. Got our main ingredients for everything. Adobo, coffee. What happened to Ace's seasoning?
Hey guys, I'm getting naked over here.
Ah! That's not going in the video. Give me this thing. There we go. We got the nuke back on. We put taters in there last night. Some, what were they? Fingerlings?
Fingerling potatoes.
Fingerling potatoes? Okay, so we got some taters in there with our fish stew that we had 1 cup of before bed. Let that heat back up. Some breakfast, some coffee.
I'm so excited for that coffee. You have no idea. I really appreciate that. These are days where you need coffee. I don't know how you don't drink coffee on a nice.
Just ready to go.
You're just ready to go. I'm not.
I was born ready.
Born ready. I don't know. I
Born-
think because you're not waiting for the coffee, you just go. Yeah. Right? Because you're not waiting for the kick. You have the kick or you don't have the kick. Right?
I can't live without my coffee. I don't care if that makes me weak.
It's something about just sitting around the fire waiting for a cup of coffee. finishing that cup of coffee, and then it's like, let's go.
Yeah, it's like more ceremony than anything else. Like,
yeah, I agree.
you know, it's 50% coffee and 50% the ceremony. You know. I tried my long pour to cool it off, and I just realized the foolishness of that. All I have to do is set it on the ice between sips for a second, and just it'll be up perfect drinking temp. But then, I don't know, not long. Broth just looks so rich. After removing the guts from the fish and removing the fillets, the rest of it all went into the stew with some garlic, butter, adobo, of course, and small onions, some shallots, and I didn't show it here, but the potatoes went in there. Then we just tossed it in the fire, and once it came up to steam, we took it off and let it finish cooking. Nice cup of broth for me. We gotta figure out how to get the taters out of there. How you liking it? How'd that tater turn out?
This is amazing. As you can tell, it's all over my face, so I'm just digging in here. But the potato is amazing.
Yeah.
Not fishy at all. Spices is perfect.
Mmm. Oh, I hear the drone. I think I got a package delivery. Alright, we got some new gear from a new friend. Striker sent us some goodies. Let's have some fun with it, see what we got.
Watch fingies.
Yeah. Don't cut my... Good, yeah. What we got, what we got? Oh, here, I got an idea. Woo! We got long johns, we got, I don't know, sweatshirt. Ooh, sweatshirt. Rod case. Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
That'll be nice. No more just bringing my rods around and risking them breaking. Nice hat.
Hoodie.
Long johns.
Long john.
All right. Which ones did you get?
You got, I see large here, so probably you.
That's probably me, yeah.
Medium.
I'm gonna try it all on, get geared up for the day, head out there. This couldn't have come at a perfect time. I love this Borealis here from, put the link right there, down below and stuff. And this thing is nice, but it's like rainy and stuff right now out here.
Yeah.
So these are gonna be the bomb for this. Going for it.
Going right in. Yeah.
Going right in. Get them on.
Nice. Are these hand dryers
Yes. Yeah.
for fishing?
Yes. Right on.
And you can take them off to wash them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Get your fish guts on them. You buy extras on their site and stuff. So you got your hand dryers, or you could buy even bigger ones that hang down and hang from your belt and stuff. Seriously, thank you, Striker, so much. These couldn't have come at a better time. We're dealing with, 2 or 3 inches of slush on top of the ice, and be able to kneel down, work on things, stay dry, stay warm. Oh, and it's gonna be like -8 or something Friday. I might not even climb into my sleeping bag at night. I'm just gonna.
Seriously, this is like wearing a sleeping bag.
Yeah. Oh, they fit. They fit in there so. Oh, look at that. The way they flex and stuff. Bomb?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put the top on because it's gonna be too hot.
Yeah.
Perfect. I like how they got the knees.
I know.
Protection.
If we had known it was gonna be so warm, it's like send us the snow pants bottoms. What do they call these things, Nora?
Bib.
Yeah, send us the bibs and send us your summer rain gear. That's what we needed more than. Ooh, these are nice. They are nice. Oh,
Now you're an ice fisherman. You're not a bushcrafter anymore.
oh,
You gotta switch hats.
I switch hats. I switch hats? All
Yeah.
right. So
You'll catch more fish now.
I'll catch more fish if I switch to the striker hat. Here we go. I'm ready. Let's do it. Oh, I like this. I feel like a professional fisherman now, like
You look
like a sport fisherman. Like I'm like geared up. I got like sponsor logos all over me, and
dry.
I feel like dry, warm. I wonder if this is like fast drying or a little bit water
It's
resistant.
against athletic wear
It's yeah.
for both, right?
It's a wicking and fast drying kind of thing, probably.
Yeah.
You know. But I think it's gonna be too warm for that. This is what I'm taking with me out on a loan, and I won't even need to. If I go on a lone all-star someday, I'm not even gonna need to take a sleeping bag because you're allowed to bring a winter snowsuit and a jacket. So I'll just bring this
all day long.
and then just like no sleeping bag, so I have one more item to bring with me instead of losing one of my 10 items on a sleeping bag. And just be like, boom, go to bed every night like this against a tree. And got my 2 frostbite rods that Parrot gave me here. The Mr. Big, Mr. Little, no, Meat Locker. I caught something on both of these already. Love them. Beautiful rods. Super flexy. Super strong. Just feel so good. And my custom made one there by Ness Rods that made me the he made me this with the orange wraps and all set up. I had a lot of fun with this one. It's pretty rugged too. Oh, I see. The tips go into a separate spot. Alright, got my gear, gonna head out, join Peric in the middle here of the lake, see if we can't get on something good. I didn't manage to catch anything so far. Peric's caught one. Chris is up to, I don't know, like 5 or something, so you have to watch their videos to see their parts of the adventure. It's a 3-part adventure, and it's shaping up to be super fun. Let's do this. Perch, huh?
Yeah.
We're just knocking out the species.
Species game is strong. But he ate this minnow. I thought it was a lake trout for sure.
Right? something down there. He keeps coming up to check. He was coming right up as I dropped it down and in. I don't know if you can see it. It's so wet out here today. He was coming right at it. So if you can't read a fish finder like this, then it's kind of annoying watching somebody's fishing video with these, but I could tell you how to read it very easily. This right here and this right here are both reading the same thing. That's my lure, and that little red mark is a fish coming up to hit at my lure. The bigger that red line is between your two yellow lines, the bigger your fish is. You can see it on the history side here where he came up, crossed over, decided, and turned away from it. He's still down there swimming right around, and you can see right here, I'm kind of like jigging in the same space that he's in, and he's not taking it, so I'm bringing it up a little bit as I jig it. You can see that on the history side, and you see it right here as he starts to come off the bottom to follow it up and possibly hit it, but he didn't. So, but he's right there in the space as I bring it up. It's like a video game. If you learn how to read it, it's a lot of fun. You can set this into a hole that you've drilled. You see what's going on, and like this thing here on this side, you see the history. He came up, inspected it, bumped it a little, and took off, or went back down. All right, I think what we got going on is a ton of perch right here on the bottom. I could move, or I could try something different. I think I'm gonna try something different. I take off this little wiggly tail thing and put on a piece of worm. I wish I had some smaller little trout worms. You break those in half and you put them on as the tail for a jig head and perch. Seem to nail those for me every time I've done it. Almost feels like cheating, it works so well. But the name of the game is food. I do love this spool, Black Betty or whatever it is. You just pull the trigger and away it drops, spooling out straight, right to the bottom. As long as you're not frosting up, you don't have to do anything. Just let her go for a little wiggle and she keeps going. I'm having so much fun with this ice fishing thing. In the past, all I do is a piece of line and a stick and, you know, try all these different, like, more primitive things. And I'm just having fun. Oh yeah, fish on. Fish on. Ooh, feels like a good fish. Feels like a good fish. Maybe a nice, good sized perch, small bass. All right, ha ha! Woo! Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. What we got? What we got? Oh, there's a good bass right there. That'll eat. That'll eat. Oh, yeehaw. My first fish of the new adventure. Yeah, right. I am psyched about that. Just a little teeny jig head, pink and white, with a scrap of worm on her, and boom. So the perch are in there, the bass are in there. Whoa. Oh. Oh, that's nice. That'll be really nice. That'll be really nice. We'll just take care of him. There we go. Good to go. We got food. We got food. Let's see if we can get some more. Hee-hoo! Fish on. I lost it. It's hard to stop looking at the thing. I want to like change up my tactics, change a lure or something, but it's like I keep seeing those marks moving in and around and over top of it within the 9 feet. They're like moving in on it, check it out, move off. hopefully I can make this interesting for you in the edit. It's very different than my bushcraft stuff, and I know a lot of people, whenever I post a fishing video, it's just like, but we've built some shelter. We're gonna do some more neat things. So leave it in the comments below. Can you put up with me enjoying fishing and bringing that to you in a video? And what could I do to make it more entertaining? Let's drop that AquaView down there and take a peek and see what's going on exactly. See if we can see what all those marks are that are swimming around and ignoring us. They sent us this for the adventure. I am really excited for this, to use this in the future. You know, when we did that lobster GoPro, I think this will be super cool to use for some more stuff during the summertime, as well as more of this ice fishing stuff, just to be able to see what is going on at the bottom. So AquaView makes a couple different versions of these. This one records at 1080p, but it takes an external recorder, and I only got this the night before the adventure, so I didn't do a very good job of using it out here. I didn't figure out how to use the external recorder until after I got home, so I'll put this little footage up right here of that trout that you saw in the preview. I cheated. That did not happen during the adventure. It does a beautiful job, but Perrot had this smaller version that they make, which records at 720p, and the whole thing is not much bigger than a cell phone. If you're not obsessed with high quality footage the way I am, that one is the bomb. You can keep it in your pocket, you whip it out, drop the camera down the hole, the little mini version, and see what's going on down there, and even record some beautiful little clips like this one. There's a fish right there. That is a pumpkin seed or bluegill or a rock bass. I went back real quick and didn't really film it, just went and grabbed another cup or two of soup and came back out here. Mystery tackle box, their winter ice fishing box they sent me. All kinds of goodies in it. And of course, it's got something I have no idea what it is, rattlesnake something or other. I guess you put it on the line. It shakes, but these things are really cool. I like the one that I took. That's my headlamp. I just stuffed it inside there. But it's got some frostbite stuff, which is kind of appropriate since we're out here at Perrot, and some little jig heads of all different kinds. I mean, if you're into fishing, this or you know somebody who's into fishing, this is like the ultimate in treasures, you know, treats to send them. Some frostbite jig heads here. I think I'm gonna rig one of those up, and with one of these little frostbite wigglies here, drop it down there, see what we can do. I know what you're thinking, it's lots of gear, sell out, but this is not sponsored. They are companies I really wish to work with, and that's why I reached out to them. Striker, Jiffy Ice Drills, Mystery Tackle Box, and AquaView all contributed the stuff that you see in these videos. I'm going to put their links in the description below. I highly recommend them. I didn't just pick these guys randomly out of a hat because they're willing to send stuff, but because they make quality gear that I'll be able to rely on and bring you better adventures. There we go, all rigged up. Let's drop that down and see what happens. It's very hooky, that's for sure. Dropping in. Fish on. No, yep. Fish on. Can't tell. My drag's all messed up and I can't remember how these reels work. Oh, it's a perch. Chomped it right off the bat. Chomped it. That'll do. That'll do. Nice little perch. All right. Get a bunch more of those, and we will have something to eat again tonight. Oh, it's on. Yeah. All right, here we go. We're on. There we go. Another good-sized perch. Dinner. Fish on. That's more like it. There we go. There's my number 5. Of course, now I caught a number 5. Who's gonna want to stop when you got number 5? Like, oh, I got 5. I might as well quit. Oh, don't lose it because I'm messing around. There we go. There we go. Number 5. Of course, as soon as I said that, I gotta get number 5 so I can quit. Did I quit? Do I feel like quitting? Wait, what the heck is in him? Look at that. He's got a little... What is that? Some sort of a little minnow in his mouth. It's I'm not sure what kind of minnow that is. If you know what that is, leave it in the comments below. If it's a minnow or a small juvenile fish. For somebody who didn't know how to read a fish finder last year and then learns and seeing those marks, it's just addicting. You gotta know when to stop, when to say enough is enough and go back, go home or something, because no wonder there's so many memes about I'll see you after ice fishing season, honey. This is fun. I've done this for a number of years without all the bells and whistles and with the bells and whistles, so don't let this gear we're using and all this stuff make you think you can't do some of this. And there are great versions of fish finders. I think I spent more time when I was catching the fish paying attention to that little circly hickey-do, watching the bleeps, the sweeps, and the creeps.
What? The what? And the what? You know, the bleeps. The sweeps. And the creeps. That's not all he's lost.
Until I got my bite instead of the other one, but on the history side of it, it is so cool when you see you're jigging, your little wiggling a jig going on, and then as you see him moving in, you start pulling up on it and you see it coming up towards it, come up towards it, and then bam! It's fun. It's fun. But I did just as good, you know, a couple weeks before I had all this stuff, and I went out there and I was drilling sight holes with my shovel, and then just dropping back and forth on these holes, and I nailed a trout, or just dropping a heavily weighted line down to figure out the depth, set it up about a foot with a minnow on it, boom! Fish are all over. Some days they bite, some days they don't. If you don't get out there, you don't catch them. Persistent, consistent effort. Certain features of drop-offs really quick, depths, or it pushes up, little sandbars in weird spots like in the middle there. There's fish. You just gotta do it. You start figuring it out. It's so much fun. So much fun. There's dinner.
It's like when you do these challenges in the 7-day and the 5-day and stuff, you appreciate your bed, you appreciate your stove and all the stuff that you have every day that you don't have out here, which is really cool.
Like fire.
Like
Where'd the fire go?
But this man right here, he has no comparison to anything, like, cause he just likes the woods. He'd live in the woods he'd rather live in the woods than in a home, I feel like.
All right. Now we can finally get on to the cooking. The vegetables are easy to cut up. They don't need any skinning, being skunned out or nothing. Thank God for that, huh? A little behind the scenes evidence that he really is stepping up and doing his own, taking care of himself out here. We're not holding his hand. He's doing it. He's doing it.
And I'm loving it.
And loving it. So we got some taters that were in our fish stew. Perrick fished those out for us with his bare hands. And
I'm learning how to use butter again.
and
It's not peeling for me.
no, it's like trying to open a Band-Aid. You ever seen that where you like
It is.
you peel it and then it like ends up stuck back to itself?
How much? That's the question. How much?
Just half of it right in there.
You don't want the whole thing?
Yeah, throw the whole thing in.
Let's
What
do the whole
heck.
thing.
Yeah, because we're gonna throw the fish. We got our pile of fish that I brought in. We'll throw that in there with the vegetables after.
There you go.
It's gonna be gorgeous. We'll have that as the first course so we can throw our stuff in there. Shallots or whatever they are. Oh, there's one that looks a little. Here we go. All right, got my first course here. Thank you, Lord, for the fish today and the taters and the company and the adventure. Bless this food in Jesus' name. Amen. Awesome. I don't usually have carbs. Doing the keto thing for the past month. I've been back on it, being fastidious, because I gained so much weight so fast. But I don't feel so bad about these kind of carbs, because they're, you know, I can't be doing it on full keto, but we're burning some serious calories out here, putting on some serious miles back and forth across the ice. Oh, Perrick nailed the cook on these.
Your hat backwards, you legitimately look like a rapper.
You know who I thought I looked like? And I realized because I got all these logos and stuff all over me now. Sobe.
Yeah.
I'm like,
You're
like
good.
Sobe. Like, we're having a great time, guys. You good? We did such a good.
You look so sponsored right now. It's like,
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
hey, we're not making fun of Sylvie. He's a great guy.
Yeah. No. I wouldn't know that I thought I looked like him if I didn't watch it. Right? This is all I've had today outside of the broth. Second course is ready. We were gonna put the fish in there with it and let it cook, but fire is super hot and cozy in here, and she cooked up our food quicker than we could get the fish onto there. We could join the vegetables. All right, working on third course. We're going all out here. Gonna line the pan with bacon and all of our fish. There we go, third course. Put that on the fire. Asparagus, so good. Love asparagus.
Did you ever watch the video where I burned myself?
I don't know if I saw that one.
Got 3 million views. That was the most pain I've ever been in.
More eggs. Mushrooms. Bunch of fish. Oh, some sauteed mushrooms. Oh, that's the bomb. Take it.
You want to say anything else?
Oh,
Camera might die.
I am super psyched about this meals. I am so glad that we didn't go full primitive with just Wadobo, because this is great. And you guys can do this at home. People always say they're hungry when they're watching my videos and they feel bad because they're eating like delicious foods and stuff, but now they won't have to feel bad for me in the comments. They can be like, oh, you ate better than I did tonight. That bite had bacon, eggs, and shiitake mushrooms.
Bacon and eggs.
I'm telling you, it doesn't get much better than this. All right, I am in for the night. It was kind of a wild ride today, but tomorrow will we got some good stuff going on. We're gonna try to get on an igloo, make an igloo out of solid ice, which will be really cool, and passively fish while we work on that. And if it's not easily done, the fishing, then we don't need to go crazy about it. We'll just put out as many lines as we're allowed here, 8 each, and then work on our igloo. And then if we have some extra time, we can try some other spot in the lake and see if we have better luck with some jigging. So I'm pretty beat. You can probably hear that in my voice. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Fowler out. What a breakfast. What a breakfast.
That was the worst place to land.
Check out AP Bassing's YouTube channel and Wooded Beardsman's channel for their side of the story. Links in the description below and little bubbles here at the end. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Chop some ice and make a ice igloo. To achieve that dome I wanted would mean we'd have to employ some other method like putting in support sticks until we finally made that key piece on the top and allowed us to remove the support sticks from inside. You're watching On the Ice, a 5-day winter survival camping adventure in Vermont with special guests AP Bassing and the Wooded Beardsman.
Look at that slab.
Holy cow! Fish on! And I'm your host, Zachary Fowler.
Good morning. Another good night's sleep. Here, Chrissy's already up. And I don't want to get out of here once again. It's so nice in here. It's so snug in my hammock. But coffee's calling. Fire is out. I'm gonna get the fire going. Show Peric how to do a light a fire with one spark. Let's do it. Morning.
Morning. It's so nice in these things.
I know, right? It's hard to get out of them. Let's do it. Nothing like putting on cold Crocs until I get my socks over there. Is my little furnace still going? It is. Oh, it's a beautiful morning on the ice. Somebody else is already out there visiting our holes we were working on yesterday. They had better luck than we did. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
So we got our materials all prepped up like I always do. We were splitting up the chores here. Peric and those guys were getting the lines all ready for some more fishing. But he's in here now. He's got his tinder
I also
bundle.
went and I found some beautiful birch wood, so.
Yeah, he's got his tinder bundle prepped up, and he's gonna use the Wazoo fire starting necklace.
My newest gift from Zach, thanks.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So put that in wherever it's comfortable for you to spark at it, probably like over there, because you can pick it up and move it after you get it, or bring this to it. it into the middle of the fire. There you go. And then your next size bundle right on top. And then you can put your next one right on. Put the whole thing.
Whole bundle?
Yeah, why not? That's why I built it this way, so you could just dump it.
Wow. Never give up.
You got it. Next bundle.
I would much rather have this around my neck than have nothing at all if I got stuck in the woods. So this thing is perfect for starting fires. That's the first time I've ever started a fire, I think, with foot. Is that what that?
Oh, it's a ferrocerium rod. It's a fire starter necklace. We sell them on FowlersMakeryandMischief.com with Wadobo. You can't go out in the woods without it. So for video purposes, I sped this whole process up. It took him about 5 or 6 times as many sparks and tries to get the fire going as what I showed initially. And the only reason he didn't start it sooner was because the birch bark is a difficult case for such a small fire steel. And a little bit more prep work, and he nailed it. As you can see here, he did that prep work, shredded the birch bark down finer, and within a couple sparks, he had his fire going. Learn the materials that'll take a spark and do the prep work, because in the end, it only ever takes one spark.
Yay, buddy.
All right. So much involved in doing this protracted like winter thing now. It's crazy. But not the lake trout we've been waiting for. Gotta keep the air into these fish. It looks like we didn't. Oh, sorry, it's cold enough. It's starting to freeze up inside there, so we gotta keep these bubbles going. Definitely for freezing and for oxygenating them. It looks like we're down to about half of what we started with. Not blowing bubbles.
Cold today. It is cold.
Get the soup on. Get some. Whoa! Man down, man down. There we go. Oh. Alright, Chef Perrick's at it here. Working on our breakfast. Having some bacon and crappie and peppers and hard-boiled eggs. We've kind of said whatever to the survival-y aspect of the food aspect of this whole thing because it's been such a hard go. We haven't managed to nail anything all that big. And it's just about having fun. So this isn't a survival challenge as some of my others are. We just want to have fun and we need some energy if we're gonna build something neat today. Our goal, despite all the wind and all this, is to get out there, chop some ice, and make a ice igloo. I think this is gonna be pretty epic if we can manage to accomplish this. With the 3 of us working at it, 1 ice saw, I think it could work. I don't think I've ever seen anybody else build an igloo out of solid ice, so this should be really neat.
them out.
Right?
Little stuffed egg. And then throw a little bit of this on there. Honestly, a little bit of that Cajun.
Oh, you going with the ace this time? Yep.
Cajun on there. When I was a kid, I used to do this all the time. A little bacon, a little pepper, a little bit of Ace's Cajun on there.
It's like something you'd see at like a fancy buffet, you know, like of rich people for we're having a brunch.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's where you'd see that.
Yeah. One little piece of decorative pepper and bacon, and how to eat it though.
Hey, we should eat all of our food before Chris comes.
I heard that. You guys on round one?
Oh man,
We're on round one.
yeah, we're eating stuff you won't eat.
Egg stuffed with bacon and peppers.
Mm,
Nice.
that was a good idea. That is so
Yeah.
good. You guys gotta try that.
You could hardboil the whole dozen, and then if you're staying out there for 3 days, you could just have them hardboiled.
Yep. Yeah, you don't have to worry about opening your pack later. And
Yeah.
I remember my mom as a kid when we were hiking Long Trail with like the Royal Rangers, and she packed me eggs and pancake batter, and you know, and I get to where we're going, and it was just a mess all through my pack. It's like so much
I
for
really
that.
like this scene we have going on.
I know the nice
All right.
stump and stuff.
Here we go, guys. If I fall into the fire, we got viral.
If you knock over the bacon, we got you fired.
Just gotta flip it.
I chef fail here.
Did you have? How if you had any, Zach?
No, I haven't had any.
You haven't had any.
A little bit of charcoal is
I
good
got
for
lots
you.
of other stuff.
Oh, that's a lot of charcoal. Oh my goodness. All right, well, there's a kind of a YouTube fail there. Try to get a cover photo while we're doing this. The fish is okay. The peppers and the onions, it didn't fare so well. The fish looks pretty delicious. Pretty delicious. And onions, they're looking a little on the overcooked side, but they'll eat. Oh, that's probably done.
Think it's done?
Well, it was bubbling, right?
Was it?
Yeah. No, it's not done.
No.
When it comes out clear, you're either drinking enough liquids or your coffee's not done. I'm going with a bit of the old Ace first cast this morning. Not much casting going on out here on this adventure, but
Lots of dropping.
lots of dropping, lots of lines in the water, lots of little successes. But hey, we're grateful for all those. Lord, thank you for this meal, this time out on the ice with the guys. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's see how it turned out, even though it's a little over crispy. That's good. A little piece of pepper, a little bit of crappie. Oh, that's a breakfast of champions. I tell you, I am really liking the crappie. Like, I've never had it before. There isn't any near where I live. But now, it makes me want to take a one-day adventure sometimes from my home to find a nice crappie lake. Shout out to Ace. We make this seasoning. It's available on FowlersMakeFreeMischief.com. And, you know, we collaborated with him to make this just like we did with the Wooded Beardsman and the Wadobo. And I love it. I think it's working out just as good. We haven't tried it on the possums, raccoons, and all that other wild stuff, but if you like Cajun, it's got a hint of the Cajun, a hint of the awesome. This is good. Look at that. So Chris is bailing on us. He built himself, put up his wall tent. He's getting all set up. I think he's heading off to his own little spot down the ice. Who will be the last man standing inside the ice cave? We all know who the last man standing is always going to be.
Hey, don't tell me.
Yeah. Oh, Peric isn't out of it yet. He's still in there. He's still in there. I can hardly stand in there right now. There's so much darn smoke. I can't even finish my meal. That and there's still coffee in there, so I gotta go back in. Going back in. One more important survival thing I need to do before I get on building today. A little time with the creator. Got my, those of you that wonder, care, I use the Our Daily Bread thing, and I don't have my paper version of the Our Daily Bread, but there's an app you can get on your phone, and it's just a little couple verses to read with the
It probably causes an avalanche of the process. And we can take a closer look at this one, we can test it. I want to give a shout out to Alexander Rock, who sent a generous contribution via PayPal to help cover the cost of one of these. I'd actually just ordered one at that point in time anyway, but that helped greatly. Thank you very much. So what you get in the package is the unit itself, and it's designed to clip into an existing tray. Now let me just read the instructions here. And the instructions are written in good English. Please read this manual carefully before using the product and keep this sheet for future reference. Safety instruction, blah blah blah. It covers every possibility of who should and shouldn't use it, the broken skin, etc. You get a controlling panel ×1, an array ×1, the foot basin ×1, no foot basin, I'm guessing that is just logistics, and an adapter. Power 60 watts it says, but then it contradicts that by looking in the back of this, and it says power 25 watts. 12 volts. It comes with a power supply. The power supply comes with one of those little non-compliant plugs, and that says a lot, particularly when you're going to be putting your foot in a bucket of water with electrodes. I'm not sure I'd use the existing power supply it comes with it. It's a standard 12 volt DC power supply. This one is rated 12 volts, 2 amps. Tip is positive, just standard configuration. Not going to be using this one for safety reasons. I should put that down there and try and remember what it is. Let's get the electrode out as well. And the foam out the way. So it comes with these items. It also comes with a little scoop for the magic health salt. Separate the lid from the foot basin. As shown, comes a little clip-on thing. Clip the unit on. Plug the unit into the power supply. Plug the electrode in. It shows it didn't connect to there. Place the electrode into the bowl and add the salt, and it says put the array into the foot basin and add water as shown in figure 5. Make sure that water surface is over the top in the array. After that, add 0.1 gram of salt into the water. That's a small quantity. I was adding a lot more than that. Maybe that's why I was getting such invigorating detoxification. Connect the power, and then the 6th light indicator circled in figure 6 on the controlling panel will start flickering, flashing. This means that the appliance is in the standby mode. Put your feet into the foot basin, press the start button to start the foot spa course as shown in figure 7. The array will start producing bubbles as shown in figure 8. And then basically speaking, it steps from 1 LED, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, should I say 6. After you start the foot spa, the 6 light indicators will turn on one by one every 5 minutes as shown above. After 30 minutes, the control panel will re-enter the standby mode with flashing LEDs, and one course of foot spa finishes. Nice. It also comes with some troubleshooting stuff in the back, like, it's not working. Have you plugged it in? Right, I think the best thing to do here is get in a little test rig. So I have a Porta-Pow which will monitor the current, and we'll plug this in here, and we'll plug the electrode in, and we'll get a quiescent standby current initially. So I'm going to use the bench power supply to power this. So let's hook the crock clips onto here, and I'll bring a bowl of water up shortly. Bench power supply is now on. Let's just wait for it to stabilize because it is processor based, which is its downfall. Beep, the unit powers up. The LEDs on it are now flashing on and off. They're gallium phosphide LEDs, not exactly top of the range, but that's okay. They're functional and they'll last a long time. 12.5 volts, that'll probably drop under load. The quiescent current is bouncing up and down around about 30 milliamps at the moment. If I press the start button, the current then stabilizes round about, say, 40 milliamps. It's probably nothing compared to what it's going to be. Let's slide this out the way. Let's bring up a bowl of water. And then make a huge mess on my bench, as one does. So I shall end the treatment session. I'll get the scoop and I'll get the special magical health salts. Keep in mind this is a tiny quantity of water compared to what we'd normally use, so let's add just a little bit. Just a little tiny bit, just to start to get it sort of semi-conductive. Reminds of the McDonald's stirrer spoons. Some of you may be too young to remember that. McDonald's used to have little teaspoons like this, but they had to remove them because people were using them to measure cocaine or heroin or something like that, because they just held the right amount, apparently. Right, in goes the electrode. Is it going to go? I'll put it on its side. That's better. Right, In comes the meter. Can you see that okay? I think you can. Let's start the treatment. So the current has gone up to 540 milliamps. And it's holding there, so it's about 500 milliamps, I'd say. But is that being affected by the conductivity of the water? I've got the little bubbles are coming out. Do we add more salt and see if it has a dramatic effect to the current, or if it's regulating the current? Let's say. Oh, we're up to an amp now. Oh, we're up to 2 amps. Okay, let's just... let's give it a bad time. Okay. The current, although it peaked there, is stabilising back down to 1.5 amps. Does it have current regulation built in? More salt. Let's throw the whole lot in. Let's give it a bad time. I'll measure the voltage across this. Can I measure the voltage across this? I could theoretically stick... It's making the water mangy, which is, of course, all the impurities coming out your body, etc. The current has gone back down, so it is regulating the current itself. The voltage, I'll nudge the voltage up a bit to compensate for that, up to 12. It's 1.3 amps. It is current regulating. So it does have that facility that's it's got an upper threshold. And in this instance, this is now so conductive that I would say that is 1.3 amps is probably its rating, or 1 to quarter amps, given it's got quiescent current. Okay, right. So now we know that. I think it's time to open this unit. Other things worthy of note, I tested this. And every so often, well, actually, every time it changes, so this is in the first stage of the 5-minute treatment. After 5 minutes, there was a notable click from this unit. And that means that I think there's a relay probably being used to reverse the polarity, because then when it went to the next one, you actually heard the relay drop out again. Right, so I shall pause momentarily. Will I pause momentarily? No, I won't pause. I'll just turn the power off. Whip this off, pull the lead out, and I shall take my huge tub of simmering filth out of the way. So let's put the porta-power out the way. Let's take this bowl out and put it in my sink before I knock it over, because that would not be good. It's making fizzing noises. Okay, let's open this up and see what's inside. Off goes the power supply. Wipe the water off the bench before it soaks into the MDF. Dry my hands perhaps as well, that'd be quite a good thing. Is my screwdriver going to reach? It's going to reach these ones. I think the other ones are deeper. I may have to resort to another screwdriver for the other ones. Two screws. Now I'm going to need a longer driver. That one's got safety sleeving on it, so it's not going to reach. So I'll have to use this little one that's actually a bit too small for the screws, but that's okay. I'll just use brute force. What's going to be inside? Is it going to be super simple? I think we can safely say it's not just a resistor. It looks fairly sophisticated. There's a little peeper with a sticker over it. The sticker does two things. It protects it during the manufacturing and also quietens it down a bit. So if you've got one of these and you're giving these treatments, you charlatan, then removing that sticker may make it a bit louder. Let's zoom in a bit closer. There is the relay. Where is the input circuitry here? These connectors, I mean, it looks pretty well made, to be honest. These connectors are all glued in solid. That's slightly annoying. Ugh. So that is the output electrode on that side. Oh, it says out, that's good. And we'll pull this connector. This will be the input connector. What do we have here? Tell you what, I shall pause momentarily I'll take a close look at this picture. Tell you what, let's get this whole circuit board out and see if there's anything in the back as well. This inductor here, it's massive, but then again, it could be part of the current regulation circuitry. The current regulation circuitry could be based around one of these chips in the vicinity. There's a microcontroller. The microcontroller is most likely, it's most likely got a resistor in series with each LED and then a control signal to the rest of the stuff for basically enabling it and then turning the relay on and off. The inductor is actually held in the cable tie, that's quite nice. Right, tell you what, I'm going to, there's nothing else in the back here, so I'm just going to take a picture of the front and then we can take a much closer look at this. Okay, a little bit of reverse engineering has been done, and it's quite sophisticated. I mean, it's not super complicated, but it's quite sophisticated for what it does. Let's take a closer look. Let's get down closer to this circuit board image. So here's the actual circuit board. This is the image. There is this little test point connector. JP1 it says. I wonder if that's for other functions or if it's just for testing this unit. Things worthy of note. The supply comes in here and immediately goes to a 78MO5 voltage regulator. That's a 5-volt regulator that is purely powering all the circuitry at this side. The circuitry is divided into two distinct sections. The stuff down here is the control logic. The stuff up here, including the relay itself, is the output control, and that includes this inductor because it is basically a buck regulator based on this chip here and this fairly high current switching transistor here. There's the little peeper. There's a couple of transistors here. One of those transistors, which is a 512, that's 5.1k resistor going to the base. One of them does the peeper, and the other one, the transistor here, has a track going, let me just find this, it's got a track going all the way up to the relay coil. So this other transistor here is switching the relay from the microcontroller. The microcontroller itself is an STC15W408AS. I didn't even check that up. I would say it's not doing anything too sophisticated, it's just a generic microcontroller. The only exciting bit of the circuitry is a little bit of sense circuitry here that's possibly to detect an anomaly on the input and shut things down? Not really sure. Or is that one of the control signals up to there? It's going up to here, but it's going up to one of the rails. I think it is associated with this sense, what I'm guessing is a sense resistor here for current flow, since I'm pretty sure this is just a buck current regulator. The button, when you press the button, has a track which goes down to this pad, so it's going straight to an input with a suitable logic level pull up and pull down type resistor arrangement, so it's purely just an input, switched input to that. There are three 102 resistors, that's 1020s, 1K here, and there's three here. Those are doing the LEDs. Very simple, run them at quite low current. There is a 10K resistor here with a little red LED in the back that is purely for diagnostic purposes. It basically, it just flashes just to indicate what's going on the front panel. When it starts up in sort of test mode, or should I say initialization mode, when these LEDs are flashing, that one flashes as well. I think it is just purely diagnostics for when they're actually building the thing. This capacitor here is associated with the output. The little switching regulator is quite a sophisticated one. It's a very capable one. They may have just chosen it because it's very popular. It's marked 2843B. A look online showed OnSemi do one called a UC2843B, and the pins do tally up. For instance, pin 6 does come over to the gate of this MOSFET, and pin 2 is connected with these sense components here, including a pair of inverse parallel diodes for voltage protection. It's got a little bit of, it's got pretty good design, to be honest. It looks as though it's a fairly textbook design. Most of these quack things do. They actually must get the fun out of creating something oh fine well is a bit shady. Anything else worthy of comment? This diode is associated with this inductor and this capacitor to create that buck regulated supply that's fundamentally it. It's a fairly component heavy. You'd think they could have minimized this down a bit more and just used a much simpler current regulator, but it is just a generic switching regulator with quite a few support components around it. That is fundamentally all there is to say about it. When the unit
What's up, everyone? I've got a treat for you today. It's pretty cold out. I don't know exactly how cold, but so cold that my 2011 Jetta TDI with the common rail even had a little bit of a hiccup starting out. She smoothed out a little bit, but it took a couple tries to get it started, so it's plenty cold here for Missouri. I don't know how cold it is exactly. Like I said, I didn't look at the temperature, but all I know is it's cold. And I was at AutoZone picking up some stuff. They had these on sale for 40 bucks. That's like more than half off of what they want for these little things. And I had $20 in rewards credit, so I picked this thing up for $20. I thought, what the heck. Let's give it a try and let's do a little review of it. So it says it's 700 amps out of the box. It looks like it comes fully charged. And it says it's designed for 6-cylinder engines. So we're going to try it on a 4-cylinder engine, but it's a diesel, and this diesel has been sitting, to the best of my knowledge, unused, untouched for well over a year. Let's go see if this little cheap jump pack that I just bought can get this diesel generator running. You don't need to charge before using. Wow, does this place ever bring back memories? Cold too. Also doesn't help that the roof's missing off the middle one. But there it is, guys. Oh, I remember one of my first YouTube videos, I think, was just making a video of this thing starting. Wonder if any critters have been nesting in it again. I know we've had that problem before. Well, looks okay. Let's check the oil. Yeah, look at that clean oil. Nice. Still clean from when I did the oil change on it. Can't really read my writing on there anymore, but I had some writing on it at one point. Looks like a little sock on the air filter starting to come apart. That's what that stuff is there, but as long as the paper element's still in there, we'll be fine. Which it looks like it is. And just to prove to you guys that this battery's dead and the block heater's unplugged. We don't even have electricity in this building anymore. So all the roofs are flat, none of the lights are on. But I have faith that we can still get this thing running. And it does look like the mice have been in here a little bit. Hopefully they didn't chew anything up. I'll tell you what, I'm surprised at how light this thing is. That really impresses me. Super lightweight. Let's see if it's any good. They replaced this battery the last year my dad was in business here. There we go. Alright. Oh, yeah, it powered up. Alright guys, here we go. It's been a long time. Let's see what she does. Nope. Well, let's keep trying. A little bit more. Oh. Well, can't say I'm very impressed. try something else. Alright, I don't know if this is going to make any difference, but I'm going right to the starter there and then grounding it. We'll see what happens. Nah, same thing. Got a few other things to try. Now, I have only heard that these things work really well. I haven't proven it, but let's try it out. Okay, it's saying ready. I got that one hooked up there. And I got this one hooked up here. Let's see what happens. Oh, it started to. Come on. Okay, jump, start, ready. Let's try it again. Still says full. All right, here we go. Come on. It starts to go a little bit, but it's just not enough. All right, we're gonna try it one more time. Nope. Alright guys, I've had it with trying to jumpstart this diesel generator with these little jump packs. So I'm gonna borrow a battery out of the Excursion. These batteries are just brand new. So what are we rated at here? 850 cold cranking amps at 0. Yeah, that should get this thing started. Just gotta make sure that that doesn't touch because the other one's still hooked up over there. You only need one. So, let's borrow this battery and see if this gets it started. Alright, so the last time this thing was started was October of 2017. And I would have been the last one who started that. So, it's about 2 years later. This thing hasn't had any love. Nothing. So, I've got the battery out of the Excursion there. We're going to try that. I'm guessing the jump packs just didn't work because this thing was so discharged. Even the jump packs just couldn't overcome that completely dead battery. So we're gonna throw this big battery in here. What's our cold cranking at? Yeah, 525 and 850. If this doesn't turn it over, guys, I don't know what will. It's actually cracked there. Let's see, it's cracked. Oh yeah. Here we go. I don't know what's going to happen. That's just sitting kind of loose there, but I'll just let it sit on there. Hopefully that holds enough. All right, let's try this again. Been a while, generator. Let's see what you can do. Oh. All right, so just as I thought, we didn't have good connection there, so I jammed my little needle nose pliers in there, stiffened that connection up a bit, so now it's solid. That's solid too. Alright, come on. Alright, I'm going to try something different here. I am going to clamp down on this terminal with my pliers, actually. Different set of pliers here. And hold that on tight. Now I'm going to reach up in here and just flip the switch. Alright guys, here we go. Runs beautifully. I like it. Uh-oh. Did I speak too soon? We got fuel? Got fuel. Maybe it just had air in the lines. Come on, stay running. Purge it. Purge that air. Smooth out. Come on, that air out of there. I know you can. Stay with it. Burning clean. There it goes. There it goes. Yeah! Alright guys, we did it. A little trip down memory lane here. I stepped out of the main area here for a little bit just because the thing is so doggone loud. It's the only thing about this generator. It's extremely loud. But it's been running for about a half hour now. It never reaches 180 degrees quite. I think the thermostat's just sticking open a little bit. But it's running great. It's running perfect. I don't know what we're going to do with this thing, but I wanted to come back and give it a visit, see how it does after 2 years of sitting. So, let's go take a look. Well, here we go, guys. Started it, ran it, had a little bit of air to purge out of there, and of course we had issues with the batteries. When have we not had issues with the batteries on this thing? I don't know. But warmed it up, it's working great. The only things I've noticed is little coolant seep there when it's cold, and then it seals up when it warms up. Mouse droppings everywhere. When I first started this thing, I got showered with all that mice crap that they love to build up in here. It's not the first time that's happened. And then, as you probably saw in that clip, the rodent or something, whatever it was, probably a mouse, was chewing on this hose here. So that hose is really thin in that area there. It'll have to be replaced if someone wants to make this a reliable generator again. Alright, well there you go, guys. I don't know if we'll see this thing again or not, but there it is. Hope you enjoyed. As always, give it a thumbs up if you did, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Okay, welcome back. Got something a little bit different, but kind of the same today. This is a Onan Cummins QD3200 diesel generator set. This unit came out of like a commercial use RV. I think they were running like a little health clinic out of this thing. So I don't have much of a backstory on it. It was given to me recently. This was a takeout from an RV warranty replacement. So something is wrong with this unit to the point where it was still under warranty, and Cummins just said, here, take a new one, it's not worth repairing. So I don't know a whole lot about these. I've never worked on one before. I saw it sitting in shop, and I inquired about it. So I kind of like the shape. It's really compact. It's roughly 18 by 18 by 30, little rectangle here. So it's a low output, 3.2 kilowatt, 120 volt only, it looks like. But let's open it up here and see what's inside. So
It looks like it's a little single-cylinder Hatz engine. There's the Cummins tag. Serial number, made in 2013, not all that old. 3.2 kilowatt, 120 volt, 3100 RPM. That's interesting. So that's neither slow speed 1800 or a screamer at 3600. I don't know if they're driving a generator via a belt in here. It's awful small. That's what a lot of these Cummins RV units do. At least the more modern ones. They'll run the engine at something like 3,200 RPM just to keep the noise down. But then they'll have a pulley ratio and a belt set up to drive a generator head at 3,600 RPM. So interesting. Don't think there's enough room for a belt in there. Could this be an inverter generator? I don't know. Let's pop the cover off here and see what's inside before we actually hook up power to it and see if it'll run. No need to do any more damage than it's already done. I forgot to mention here, so there's really no controls on the generator itself. It looks like there's a push button circuit breaker here of some kind. That looks like maybe just a DC power disconnect. And this little panel here, I would imagine would be mounted inside the RV or the truck or whatever this is generator set was mounted to. Little HMI panel. So again, really simple. A start button and a stop button, and I guess a oil level warning. Again, 2013 there, and then the cable to connect the two. Alright, well I popped the top cover off and these two side panels, so let's take a look inside here. Got a lot of sound proofing insulation going on here, and it looks like this is definitely an inverter based generator. So looking down the top of the engine here, got a cooling fan, and down there you can see what a bunch of single coils wound there. Let's see, are they stationary? Yep. So what we're gonna have is a big stator here wound on the coils, and then a ring of magnets on the engine flywheel. This is probably making three-phase power here to feed the inverter. Big inverter board over here. This light may be a little bit harsh. Big inverter board. Looks something a little screwy looking down there. Zoom in on that. Will it focus? I don't know, looks like some silicone on that clamp, or not clamp, that wire connector. It's a little strange. Okay. Decent sized muffler. Got some, looks like fiberglass wool insulation here for the heat resistance. Cylinder head of the engine, some kind of like, I don't know what that is. Maybe like a lifting strap. Guess so. Lifting strap for the engine. Sorry about the ambient noise. Sounds like somebody's having a tree chipped up across the road there. So, it's a pretty tidy little unit, actually. Let's get a close look at the engine here. Got a fuel filter over here. Oil fill and dipstick. Let's see what the oil looks like. It's in the operating range. You know, it smells like fuel. Not really fuel, but almost like a combustion blow-by. So we may have an engine problem here. I wonder how many hours are on this thing. When we hook up a battery to it, that HMI might indicate the engine hours. Over under this panel we have
Little load block here, terminal block for our output. Again, just single phase, 120 volt. Battery positive stud. And there's another little potted board down here. This is probably just, well, yeah, this is what that HMI plugs into, it looks like. With that, what is that, a 10-pin connector? Okay. Okay, and a fuel pump down there. Pretty standard Onan stuff there, Cummins Onan stuff. Let's take a look under the air filter cover here. See what that looks like. Oop, not really much to service on this. What does it say here? Oil capacity. 1.1 quarts. 0.7 quarts oil change. So I guess they assume you're not going to get it all out, so. But if you're filling it up for the first time, it's 1.1 quarts. That is not very much oil. Air filter. A little bit difficult to do one-handed here. Take a look at that. Looks black. Not a good sign, is it? Nope, genuine Hat's diesel part there. Wow. Again, smells like combustion blow-by, exhaust, and unburnt fuel. Okay. What do we got down there? Looks like a glow plug, or not a glow plug, but a intake heater, and a lot of oily, sooty slime. Not a good sign. Looks like we're gonna have some engine problem here. What's this exhaust tip? What's that look like in there? Wow. That is seriously coked up. Man. Alright, well, looks like we may have an engine problem here. I think at this point, let's hook a battery up to it and try to power it up and see what it does. We'll hook some fuel up to it and see if it does anything. Alright, well here's our little test setup. Got a bucket of fuel here. Just hooked up some lines here, supply and return. Got the little HMI panel connected on both ends there. So battery's also connected. Let's push this little breaker here. See if anything happens. What we got here? Nothing. Push on. $369 hours. Okay. Oh, looks like we're dripping fuel here. I think I hear the fuel pump going. Feels like it's going. Let me put a clamp on that line here. I guess okay. So the pump is stopped. So anytime you have the display on / I guess generator on, you get fuel pump action. Okay, let me put a clamp on that. Okay, let's try this again. Clamps on the fuel lines now. Let's turn this back on. Fuel pump running. Yep. And I'm assuming, based on the fact that we had fuel leaking out the return, that it is circulating. I imagine there's going to be some air in the lines. If it does start, it's probably going to be a little ornery. But let's see what it does here. Let's see. Okay. Well, it seems like we definitely have an engine problem. I think we're just going to stop cranking now. No reason to continue with that. popping out the intake so bad. How many hours we have on here? 369. Okay. Wonder if it's ever had the valves adjusted. I'll have to pull up the manual on QuickServe for this thing and see what the maintenance interval is for the valves, if there even is one. I would assume that there is, given this little air-cooled engine. It's probably an initial 250 or so hour valve adjustment. But based on the amount of soot in that exhaust and the smell in the oil, we might have a more serious problem here. It doesn't look like it's going to be the easiest to pop that valve cover off. So we're going to have to take the exhaust off and this baffle here. Hopefully that can be removed separately. It looks like it can. If we remove this baffle and the muffler, we could probably access that the rocker arms. Oh. Okay. Oh, here's the expert. Come over here and let's hear your diagnosis.
The diagnosis is that dogs were barking.
Ah. Yeah. Looks like. There. Well, you want to hear it?
I heard it.
Oh, you heard it
up front. Don't you worry. I heard that.
Okay. Yeah. Looks like we are definitely not sealing. Or intake valves are definitely not sealing. We're getting. It almost seems like we're getting partial combustion, and then blowing back out the intake. So definitely first order of business is pop that rocker cover off and see what our valve adjustments look like.
There's a reason it was replaced.
Yeah. Well, it's starting to get dark out, but I did manage to get the muffler and the that heat shield off. Muffler's fairly large. You might have been able to tell earlier. I had a heck of a time getting the piece of flex off between the cylinder head and this elbow. It was glued on with this red, almost like a high temperature RTV. I'm a little ashamed to show this, but I kind of mangled the flex a little bit. It's very, very thin, like a stainless, very flexible. I can almost squeeze it with my fingers. So I should be able to straighten that out, and I don't think any harm was done. So muffler's out, the baffle's out, and I popped the rocker cover off, and this is what I found. So, oops, sorry about that. We have push rod, which is hopped out from the exhaust valve rocker arm. Interesting. My hands are a bit dirty, but I guess it's not the end of the world. Reach in here and unthread this rocker arm and take a look, see? There's the nut, and leave that right there. Pull this rocker arm out. Let me zoom you out first. Let's take a look here. Oops, sorry. That does not look at all damaged. Interesting. Getting dirty hands. I hate working on engines with dirty hands, but like I said, it's getting dark, and I want to finish up the first part of this video here. So, exhaust valve rocker looks okay. Or does it? What's missing here? Oh, probably the little bridge, I guess you could call it. Looks like that dropped off right there. Bridge with two little, with two little washers as a spacer, and that's what's contacting the valve stem. Right there, there's the wear pattern from that. Set that aside. This will be a better angle for you. Grab a flashlight, try to light that area up a bit more. So we got our exhaust valve stem there, and rocker arm pivot stud. Turn this light off and see what the intake valve feels. Feel some clearance there. I don't know where the cylinder's at, or the piston rather, in the stroke. That stud feels fine. That's tight. That's interesting. There's no means to lock these adjustments. I wonder if they are like a... Oh yeah, they are right there. Oh, jeez, I'm sorry. So, there's your adjustment nut, and you lock it by tightening that what looks like a set screw, really. That's loose in its hole there. So you adjust your nut for your valve clearance and run this locking screw in against the stud, and that jams the nut, or jams the threads rather. I wonder if it's possible that was just not correctly torqued and it vibrated loose. Peculiar. Interesting, very interesting. So that being the case means the exhaust valve was never opening, so we were getting opening on the intake port, or opening on the intake stroke to draw a charge in, compression, and likely ignition, but no exhaust. And that puff we were hearing out the intake may be due to, I don't know if this has a mechanical compression release on it, so that the intake valve is held open a certain amount while the engine's at cranking speed. I do not know. I think the next step is to reference the service manual for this set and get some valve clearance specs, and we'll reassemble, see if it runs. I'm gonna have to put a little silicone on that gasket temporarily until we can get a new gasket, just to see if it runs. You know what, while we're here, let's see if by chance the valve clearance specs are on the tag for the engine. Let me just... there's a couple tags on this air cleaner body here. Let's see, here's one. Hats, let's see. I do not see anything that looks like valve clearance specs. Put that on this tag over here. This is just the same tag. Same tag, two different spots. Nope, nothing like valve clearances. Nothing useful. Except that serial number. Let me go pull the service manual from QuickServe, and we'll get some information. Stay tuned. Okay, well, it's a couple days later, and we're going to get back on this little Onan here, a little diesel. First, I guess, let me explain why I'm working on the ground here, for one thing, not up on a table or a bench. The shop, the garage here, is still not all fully unpacked. Not everything is put where it belongs. I have my workbench back here pretty well done. It's got some odds and ends on it now, but I don't have any lighting up here yet in the ceiling, so it's kind of dark and, you know, gloomy back here. I do have this rolling bench that I use, but that has this Onan on it right now, the twin cylinder Onan, so that's getting some work done to it. I don't really want to take that off and disrupt that project. So we're working out here where there's a little bit more light. So what I've done since the last clip, given all the components here a thorough inspection. I don't see any issues. This is the exhaust side rocker arm, the one that had the issue, and pulled the intake off as well. I don't see any appreciable wear on anything. Nothing looks damaged, bent, cracked. I did find some aluminum fragments in the valve cover here and in the valve chest of the cylinder head there, and I believe they are from the valve cover here. You can see there's a little bit of damage right up here, and some scuffs and scrapes right there, probably from the components jingling around in there as I was cranking the engine over. You You can see what it looks like on the undamaged side. So I cleaned those out. I don't think anything made it into the crankcase, so that's a plus. So I also went and I got some information off the computer for this unit. Valve clearance is 4 thousandths of an inch, so we're going to set that. Does have an automatic compression release and some maintenance data. First oil change after 20 hours, change oil every 250 hours, which really surprised me. That's quite a long interval for only the quart of oil this thing holds. Fuel and air filter every 500 hours and every 1,000 hours to adjust the valve clearance, clean the oil filter, and check the injector pressure, so the cracking pressure. Pretty surprising this thing actually had an issue, you know, valve related issue, after only a quarter of the, a little over a quarter of the interval for valve clearances being adjusted. So don't know, there may be a deeper issue with this engine. We're gonna put it back together, adjust the clearances. I'm gonna reuse this gasket for right now, the valve cover gasket. Just gonna put a little bit of silicone around that just to get it running, tested, and see if this thing's worth actually putting any effort into as a usable generator. So I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble those rocker arms and the get them adjusted. I'm gonna save you having to watch me work in that little hole there, and we'll come back when I got it put back together. Alright, well, the valves are adjusted, cover's back on. I loosely assembled the exhaust and this baffle here, so just for testing purposes. For this initial test run, I'm going to leave the covers off so we can, you know, have good visual access to everything. Now, just I know some of you are aware, some of you are not. When you're working on these little RV type generators, the doors, the baffles, the covers, they form an integral part of the cooling system for the whole unit. So anytime you're doing any runs other than, you know, just a minute or two, you have to have the cooling door, or the doors, the covers, and etc. in place. But we just want to see if it runs and if it makes voltage. So let's get the battery hooked up, turn this little panel on. So, let me check the fuel pump. Fuel pump should be running. Yep. Okay. Okay. Well, it runs. Runs, makes power. Probably didn't even get it warm. Nah, I can't really feel any heat in the engine yet. Alright, well, at this point, gonna recheck the oil, reassemble the covers, and we'll start it up again, and we'll let it run with no load. We'll heat the oil up a little bit so we can drain it, change the oil, and we're also gonna pull out this little oil filter thing that's behind here and see what that looks like. So just thought I'd show this before anybody gets up in arms about cooling. I have this one panel removed. Down here is the hot air and exhaust discharge hole. So I have it sitting on this little dolly, and it has plenty of airflow through there, just for no load testing purposes. The fresh air intake is over here. So the fresh air comes in, goes past the inverter, through the engine cooling fan, over the engine, down, and then back up again, and then down, past the muffler, and out the bottom. So. Alright, well, we got some heat in the engine now, and I've drained the oil. Well, it's just trickling out now, whatever's left. Let's see what this oil screen filter looks like. A little baby Allen key here. Engine stop lever's in a bit of an awkward spot. Let me loosen that. We'll come back. Okay, I just loosened this Allen screw a little bit, maybe 5 turns, 6 turns or so, and that released the tension. It's like a little piece of spring steel here. Kind of released tension on that, and grab that screw with a pair of needle nose pliers and pull out the screen here. Get that all the way out. So, and it's definitely just a screen. It's not any kind of filter, like pleated filter element or anything like that. It's just a piece of coarse screen. Well, not that coarse, but I don't know how you would measure that screen. There's a couple little buggers in it. So I think I'll just rinse this out and reinstall it and fill it back up with oil. Okay, well, we got a fresh quart of 1540 in here. Cleaned that screen out, reinstalled it, and I've got my load bank hooked up. So let's fire this thing up and see how it takes a load. Oh, you know what? I always forget this little breaker in here. Little circuit breaker. Okay. So I would expect nothing less than 60 hertz bang on from an inverter generator. So this load bank has no real metering on it, so that's why I've got the 2 flukes here, voltage and current. Now, in reading the manual for this little generator, it is possible to scroll through the menus on the little controller to see the generator's load in amps and in kilowatt. That's about all you can see through there on that display. But it's a little bit difficult to navigate. At least when I was reading it, it seemed a bit difficult, so we'll get back to that another day. We'll just make sure that the thing can take some load here. Should be warm enough here. I'll turn the master switch on. Got our cooling fans going. Cooling fans alone draw 2.8 amps. I forget what this thing is rated at. Let me go look real quick. Main plates on the air filter cover. 26.7 amps rated. So let's see if she can at least pull 20 amps. So we'll use the variable load up 0 to 3 kilowatt. So we're at 2.9 amps, 119.9 volt. So I'm going to bring up the load here. 7 amps, 8 amps, 9 amps. I can hear it working a little bit now. 13 amps, 14 amps. Let's hold her at about 15 amps. And let's see how she does there. Oh, it's starting to smoke a little bit. 118 volts. Is that exhaust smoke, I hope? Yeah. You remember how coked up that muffler is, so I'm sure now that we're making some heat, we are burning off a lot of that soot. Sounds okay. Yeah. That's what we in the industry call wet stacking right there. Doesn't smell like anything but exhaust smoke, unburned fuel. Everything holding okay. That current dropped a little bit. Voltage stayed the same, probably because my elements are heating up. Let's bring it back up. Oh, jumped to 20 there. Just have a dirty spot in that rheostat. Sorry, not rheostat. These are variacs in here. Hold it right at 15. Yeah, she's smoking good now. And only time will tell if that is just burn off from that coked up muffler or if there's an actual problem with the engine. I would expect that to burn off in about half an hour or so. Any more than that and I think we got a problem. The manual touches on wet stacking very briefly. It states the minimum load that this unit should be operated on is 15%. And even at that, if it's operated at a low load like that for an extended period of time, the load should be ramped up to almost full, almost 100% for a few minutes before the unit is shut down. It's getting quite smoky now. I'm going to step out here. Yeah, quite smoky. What do we got here? 118 volts, 119 volts. Yeah. 14.9 amps. Now I'm going to flush all the insects out of the garage. Alright, well, we'll come back in a little bit. We'll see if this is cleared up at all. Okay, well, it's been 30 minutes. The smoke is beginning to clear. Still about 14, 15 amps, 119 volts. Making a nice little slip spot there. up and give it another 30 minutes. Let's see, how high can I go with the Variac? That's all I got on the Variac there. What I got, 18 amps? I'm gonna switch it right on to 3 kilowatt. Oh, that's too much. Way too much. So, the best I can do with this, I don't have any smaller load steps. Let's just give it full on the Variac. About 18 amps. Oh, something's going wrong. Oh, for some reason the load just shot up. Yeah, I must have a dirty spot on these Variacs here. Let's try that again. Yeah, definitely a dirty spot. Gonna have to clean these things. Just let it sit at 20 amps. Doing pretty bad. Or, not doing pretty bad, I should say. Still holding steady voltage. Current dropped down again. Yeah. This thing should be my next restoration project. So, 20 amps, that's after another 30 minutes and see if that smoke clears up all the way. Well, after half an hour at 75% low, that smoke is just about cleared up completely. Yeah, I pretty much, you still see a little bit there. So I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's worth putting a little extra money into here. Look at all that exhaust dust been blowing out. Oh wow, look at it all. All that is soot. So yeah, I definitely think this thing had a fairly easy life. Yeah, see some smoke there. But an easy life for a diesel means run at, you know, at least 40, 50, 60% load. Light loading is no good for a diesel engine. So let's drop the load off a bit. Let it cool down and probably put it aside for another day. Yeah, pretty happy with it. I think after I think I'll change the oil again, new air filter, and get a new gasket for the valve cover. I think at that point it'll be all said and done. I'll probably load bank it again for a longer period of time and try to bring it up to 100% load. And we'll see how it does.
Yeah, we've advanced an hour, 370 hours on it.
So, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with the video if you did. So, stay tuned. Alright, I just had to show you this. Look at this pile of soot got blowing out of the exhaust. Yeah. Look at that. Definitely needed a good run on some load. I may even have a problem with that muffler being clogged up and too restrictive if I try to go to run it at 100%. Replace that fuel filter too. I forgot to mention that. Air filter, fuel filter, change the oil again, put a new gasket on the valve cover, and yeah, another load bank, and we'll try to bring it up to 100%. See if she'll do it. Thanks for watching.
Alright, well, welcome back. It's a beautiful November day in South Jersey. I picked up this Onan generator this past week, and I think in this video we're going to get it running. We'll get it producing power, and hook it up to the load bank and see what kind of life this thing has left in it. It was built in October 1954. Originally, well, the story is that, sorry about that. The story is that it came out of a fire truck. So that's really all I know about it. I bought it over in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Apparently it was a local fire company that owned it. So let's get a closer look at this thing and see what we're up against.
Okay, well here's a close-up of the nameplate. See, it's 3,500 watts, 120 volt, single phase, 115 volt. That's how they rate it. It's a 305CK. Serial number puts it as October of 1954. It's in pretty decent shape. At least the sheet metal is up top here. It's got that kind of neat scalloped look to it. This whole thing kind of has an Art Deco look between the base and the shrouding and everything. Even has what looks like an original muffler on it. Let me pop the covers off and we'll take a look inside the control box and under the engine shroud. Okay, removing the engine shroud is simple. A couple clips here. Lift off of here. Still in shot? I think I moved the table there. Yeah. And the control panel shroud, similar, a couple thumb screws, comes off. Oh, came with a complimentary mouse nest. Nice. Looks pretty original under there. Let's see. Got our fuel pump down there, sediment bowl, carburetor. Got the points box back here. The governor is internal to the engine. Got some linkage there and a vacuum booster. Pretty standard Onan stuff. Who makes that carburetor? Oh, it's a Marvel. Okay. Yeah. Air filter box down here. Let's take a look in the control box. Let me give you a close-up shot of here. Start stop buttons, charging amp meter, and a selector switch for either hand start, which would be wrap a rope around the sheave here on the flywheel, or electric start. Control box is actually pretty original. It's nice to find them like this. It looks like somebody's replaced the original starter solenoid with kind of a generic, probably apply positive to pick the coil up or pick the contacts up. So this here probably went to a remote starter button. So they're just going from the positive post probably out to their button and then back to the post on the coil here. They're also sending positive somewhere else. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know what that could be. We'll have to dig in and find out. Oops. Probably a voltage adjust resistor there. Maybe a charging resistor here. Not sure what these are. So, I'll see if I can pull up a diagram for this and give you a glimpse of that. Let's get it wheeled inside and blow it off, get that mouse nest out of there, and start working on it. Okay, well, I've got the front blower housing or air shroud off the engine. Can't take it off completely because I got this oil pressure line from the engine feeding the pressure gauge here. So I got all the mouse nest blown out of it. I also popped the cover of the control, or I should say popped the control box up so I can take a look underneath. So let me talk a little bit more about this unit. It's a pretty interesting design, and it's a bit complicated. Well, I should say it's a bit more complicated than I initially thought. At least the control system. So the ignition is magneto. I thought it was battery and coil originally, but there is a flywheel magneto coil under there. Magnets on the wheel, on the flywheel itself. So we got the lead coming out. This is acting as the primary, running up to the points box here, points and condenser. And there's another lead that comes off of this terminal and runs up to the primaries of these two ignition coils. These are, according to the wiring diagram, These are just 6-volt automotive style ignition coils. They're Autolite brand. One for each cylinder. The primaries of these coils are in series, and that's tied to the output of the coil under here, under the flywheel, which they all terminate together at the points box. The secondaries obviously come out the spark plug wire to the individual plugs. And then the only other lead that ties on here is the stop wire, which runs back to the stop relay on the control box. That would be this little guy right here. Initially, I didn't know where that was. I was assuming it was going to be on the top here with all the rest of the equipment, but nope, just hiding under here. I'll spray those contacts down, but I imagine it's just fine. Just a little dirty. Couple capacitors. Well, there's one right there, filter capacitor. Let's see what that's doing. Wire coming down from there. Where's that going? Kind of hard to see down there. Anyway. I managed to snap off one of the spark plug terminals there, trying to take it off. These wires are awful stiff, and they are shielded, so I imagine this unit would have had the steel kind of cover caps that go over the spark plugs originally, just for radio interference suppression. This wire is also shielded, as is the stop wire going back to the stop relay, all shielded. Pretty good build quality. What you'd expect from a unit this age. Unfortunately, I'm missing the electric choke. Not really a solenoid, but heater element. So that whole assembly, I think, would have clamped onto the carburetor body here. This, and then this little bracket was added to give a manual choke cable. So I'll try to track one of those things down if this little unit proves to be worth it. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. Probably clean up the ignition system, maybe replace these wires, and put the blower housing back on. Okay, well, I've unstrapped one of the coils from the blower housing. Just take a better look at it. Let me zoom in here. Genuine Autolite product there. Made in the United States. So I figured, well, while it's out, let me save myself a little bit of frustration if we do have some ignition system troubles. And we'll check out the primary and the secondary side of this coil while we're here. So I've cleaned the tops of these two terminals. This one's labeled positive and this one's labeled negative. So through the primary, 1.8 ohms. I got, and my leads have about 0.6, 0.5, so maybe only 1 ohm through that primary coil. It seems just fine. And then from the secondary to ground, 4.8K. It seems just fine. Hopefully that coil's good. We'll see how it operates after it gets hot, after we put some load on the engine and heat it up a little bit. Although, thinking about it, these coils probably stay pretty cool being under this air shroud. There's constantly air from the flywheel blowing past them, so even if these things had maybe not the the greatest secondary windings, they might still survive plenty long, because they're always kept fairly cool with the engine's cooling air. So here's a look at the original spark plug wire. This end went to the coil lead out tower, and then they grounded the shielding. So yeah, I think I'm just going to put a piece of the Packard 440 wire to replace this. Won't have any shielding on it, but if I ever come across two of the caps for the spark plugs, I'll actually replace the new wire with the shielded wire. So, alright, let's proceed. Enough yapping. Okay, well here's our 2 new plug wires. They came out pretty nice. Get them installed and we'll get that blower housing back on. Okay, one last thing before we get this control box and blower housing put back on. Now, we got 2 electrolytic capacitors here. One's mounted here, and the other one was mounted right here, this one. So these are filter capacitors or condensers. Just to let's see, this one is connected to the DC side, the positive going in to the battery, and then this one was connected to the ungrounded output from the generator. So I wanted to pull both of these off because I've had working on old generators, I've had a lot of surprises with these old filter capacitors. They'll just randomly pop and they make a big mess and a smoke cloud, and it's pretty unpleasant to clean up. So I pretty much just remove these on any old generator I work on, and I don't even really replace them because, you know, they're not necessary in this day, at least for what I'm using these things for noise filtering. But in pulling off that one capacitor, looking at the ungrounded output terminal here, you can see that there was definitely some heat on this wire and this terminal, and on the terminal that was also landed here as well. So just by looking at the conductor and the jacket, the insulation, you can tell that got hot. So high resistance connection here. Either that or they were severely overloading the generator. So what I'm going to do is cut this terminal off, strip the wire back a ways, and crimp a new terminal on. I've had these terminals sitting around a while. I've been waiting for a use for them. I don't have very many of them. They're pretty high quality. They're Thomas & Betts, and they even say Navy on them. I'm not sure what that indicates. I don't know if they were ordered by the government or what, but they are a nice heavy-duty terminal. They even have serrations in the barrel there to grip the conductor. So we're going to clamp that on there and put some heat shrink on it, maybe even flow a little bit of solder over it, and put this control box back on. Okay, I know you're probably saying to yourself, shut the hell up and get the job done, but take a look at the nut and the washer there from that terminal. The pitting, definitely evidence of arcing. So, good thing we found that. Okay, well that's another job done. Nice secure connection there. Now, before I put this back on, again, I almost forgot about the points. So I've got the points box pretty much gutted. Got the plunger here, which is loose, nice and free. And a little rubber boot, which is nice and supple. So that survived. Got the points here, they're in pretty good shape. Gave the contacts a little file. Now the condenser, Onan part, of course. Now it says 0.3 microfarad there. According to my my meter, this is way out. It's like it says supposed to be 0.3 microfarad. It's like 1.6 microfarad. So that's, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen one raising capacitance. But we're not going to bother using that. I've got these here, plenty of these in stock. These are 0.22 microfarad, and they carry a higher voltage rating. These are 400 volt rated. This is only 300 volt rated. So I use these on almost all like small engine related ignition systems. I think I got about 100 of them. So I'm going to put one of these in there and put the points back on. Alright, well while I'm assembling the points here, I just thought I'd show you this handy tool for starting these little screws that are kind of difficult to access back there, especially that one down there, and there's one up here that hold the backing plate for the points down. So here it is. It's an old tool, and I haven't ever seen another one. It's a Snap-on. It's an SS3. Now let me put you on the tripod so I can show you how this little thing works. Sorry about that shot there. Okay, let me get you here. It's upside down, isn't it? So it's just made for these little guys here, these little screws. So the tool's got a spring in it, so you take it and you line it up and you press down and it holds the screw there. And what it's doing is, you see the split blade there with the one in the center. When you press down, that pops up and it goes on an angle not quite perpendicular to the two outer blades, but enough to lock the screw in place. And then as you tighten the screw, it automatically disengages from it. So real handy for starting little screws like that, especially in a points box like that. Alright, well, I wanted to say a couple quick words about starter solenoids and these old Onins here. So when I initially took the cover off of this unit, control box cover, hope I'm not blocking the light too bad here, this is what the previous operator had installed for a starter solenoid. Apparently, the original must have failed some point long ago. So this style is pretty simple. This is, I really probably shouldn't be speaking about this, but I don't know the nomenclature for starter solenoids. I don't know what exactly you'd call it, but I would call this an internally grounded starter solenoid for this reason here. So you have your two main posts here. This is where the main current, the load you're trying to switch is flowing between this post and this post. So this post here is for the coil that would close the contact and allow the current to flow through the starter solenoid. So this style, one leg of the coil terminates at this post, and the other leg terminates to the mounting bracket of the starter solenoid, which would go to ground. So you would apply 12 volts to this terminal to pick the starter solenoid up. So let's check that out here. So we should have some continuity between here and the bracket. Should. Oh. .8 ohms or so. Not getting a very good connection here. But anyway, that there is a path to ground from this post to this post. There is no continuity from this post to either of the main terminals. Okay, so on a lot of the old Onins, this one included, the controls they work on a apply ground basis, not apply positive. So when you push the start button is essentially taking the starter solenoid's signal and pulling it to ground. So originally this unit would have had a solenoid which looked similar to this with only a single terminal, but within the solenoid itself there would have been a connection from the battery positive post to one leg of the solenoid's coil, and then the other terminal, the small terminal, when you would take this and tie it to ground, that would cause current to flow in the solenoid coil, pick the contact up, and then you'd have a circuit through the main posts. So I'm going to use this coil here. I keep these in stock. I call these isolated coil solenoids. So we still have no continuity between either of the posts, either of these small posts and the large posts. And we also don't have any continuity between the small posts and ground. We do have continuity between the small posts though. 16 ohms or so. So what I'm going to do is make an external jumper from one post to battery positive, and that will allow me to apply ground to the other post to complete the circuit for the solenoid coil and close the main contact. So I like these because you can pretty much make them work however you like, as long as you don't have a setup like an automotive setup where sometimes they've got a second post here. See how this one is labeled S for start, oops, sorry, and I for ignition, where this one ties directly to the load, or I don't even know, the load or the line to give your coil of your engine full voltage when you're cranking. So not really good for automotive applications, maybe some, but definitely good for kind of industrial equipment and old Onan generators. So this is a Colhurst part number there. Keep a couple of these on hand, they're really handy. Alright, let's get back to work. Okay, where are we now? Got our new starter solenoid installed. I've checked spark by spinning the engine over by hand. We got good spark at both cylinders. I've pulled the DC brushes off the commutator already. Gave the brushes a little buffing. They're all nice and free in their holders. Also gave the DC commutator a little bit of a buffing. And I pulled the 4 AC brushes out off the slip rings. They need a little cleaning, a little buff, and same with the rings themselves. Now the slip rings are pretty difficult to get to. They're hidden. You can see one right down there. There's another one over there. They're a bit difficult to get at. So what I was hoping to do was, with the spark plugs out, use the electric start function and turn the engine over while having like a little piece of wood with a piece of Scotch-Brite on it riding on the slip rings one at a time to just give them a little buff. So connected a battery, got a nice heavy battery here, battery cable's all hooked up, hit the start button, nothing happened. So I start probing around. I got 12 volts where it needs to be, 12 volts at the start button, but no continuity through the start button to ground. So I pulled a little button apart. You can see the two terminals there. One is shiny and new, the other one is heavily tarnished and corroded. Similarly, inside the button, this is kind of delicate work here, there's a little copper disc which actually makes the connection, and that tarnished point right there, it was lining up directly with the tarnished contact. So I don't know, maybe a little buffing of Scotch-Brite on that and the contact, and I'll see if I can manage to get this button back together, and we'll see if it starts. Interestingly enough, when I found out this wasn't making continuity through it, I checked the stop button. The stop button has no continuity through it either. So that's interesting, but well, that'll be the next thing to pull apart. So stay tuned. Okay, well that worked like a charm. Got two nice clean slip rings, good clean commutator. Gotta put the brushes back in their holders, and we got two functioning buttons here, start and stop, so that's good. You know, I'll set those brushes back in, and we'll come over and take a look at this oil pressure gauge. You know, I was thinking about pulling this out, and I still may replace that line at some point, probably a good move. But I really like the lettering and I guess the script, or the font you would call it, on this gauge. And I would bet my money that that gauge still works, and it's probably fairly accurate. So I think that's going to stay there. While we're here, I got a camera on. Let's take a look at the oil in this thing. It's full. It smells like old gas engine oil. It doesn't smell heavily of fuel, but definitely in a gasoline engine. Yeah, a little sludgy at the bottom down there. Yeah, a little sludgy there. Not the worst I've seen, that's for sure. There's some sludge there. Yeah, I think we're gonna run it. Start it up, warm it up, then we can drain the oil out. But that oil smells fine. Enough to run it, warm it up. Alright, let's keep going. Alright, let's take a look at that oil pressure. See what we get. This is just cranking with the spark plugs removed. That's pretty good. Almost 20 pounds at cranking speed. Well, a little higher than cranking speed because we got no spark plugs in. So I think we're ready to put those spark plugs in and take a look at the carburetor. Make sure that's ready. Alright, well, we got the top popped off the carburetor here, and the sediment bowl dropped. Interior looks fine. The inlet needle seat looks fine. Almost looks new. Float. Inlet needle. Sorry about this. Bad angle here. Looks nice. Gasket even came out in one piece. I think I'm going to go ahead and make a new gasket, just because this one is pretty simple to make, and this one's really thin and brittle. Taking a look in the bowl here. Pretty clean. Got a little sediment down at the bottom there, but no corrosion, thank goodness. So I'm not even going to bother pulling the bowl off. We'll see how it runs. And if we got to go further and pull the bowl and the main mixture needle and the idle needle out down there, we will. But I'm going to leave all that well alone right now. Alright, well, I got some gas connected to it. I got a meter on the output to see if it makes voltage. I've also turned the speed down a little bit, weakened taken tension off the governor spring, just so it doesn't try to over rev on me. I don't know where it's set at, so I always like to back the governors down a little bit so they don't start up and go right to rated. So yeah, we don't have any fuel in the sediment bowl yet. I haven't even tried to start it, so bone dry. So we're all gonna see how long this takes. Unfortunately, there's no priming lever on this fuel pump on this thing, so you know, pretty much it's crank, crank, crank until the pump sucks the prime and fills the carburetor. I could probably prime the carburetor just to get it to run, but yeah, we won't do that. We'll see if it'll draw fuel on its own just with cranking. Turn the meter on. Got a little choke knob here. We'll leave the choke off until it gets fuel. Alrighty. Oh, there's the fuel. Alright. Alright, the sediment bowl filled up. It should take off at this point. What do we got here? Give it some choke. Oil pressure. well, the meter first off doesn't really return to 0. So, but it was definitely reading farther than the discharge. The battery was at 12.6 with it running. Let's see what it is now with it stopped. Yeah, 12.6. Okay, well, it didn't really tell me anything, did it? I guess we'll gonna have to get an amp meter out and see what's actually going on here. All right, stand by. That was a good first run, though. A little smoky on the startup, but I did put oil down the cylinders. So, all right. Well, I started it back up. Still registering a discharge. But now, I confirmed this with both of my meters. Now it's charging. I don't know, I think that amp meter may be hooked up backwards, because I'm definitely charging. Very strange. Pretty good, it's not missing a whole lot. All the junk that flew out of the muffler. Okay, really not running too bad at all, actually. I'm gonna let it run for a while, get the oil warmed up. I mean, the pan's cold. It's only been running for 5 minutes though. Hear it kind of ramping up and down a little bit. Yeah. Not too bad. We'll come back when we get the load bank hooked up. Okay, well, we're pretty thoroughly warmed up now. I got the load bank connected. We're going to start her up and see what kind of performance we can get out of it. Remember, this is rated at 3,500 watts at 115 volt AC. So that's nameplate 30 amps. No load speed should be about 61.5 to 62 hertz. A little bit more no load speed might be acceptable for this old unit, but I like to keep them as close to 60 as possible. And I don't want to see frequency drop below 59 hertz. So, again, this thing is built 1954, so we're gonna go easy on it. If the performance is less than stellar, we won't be surprised. So, start her up. I guess I gotta put the battery on. It seems like it's starting to miss more often. piece of metal fuel line had some rust particulate in it that is now ended up in the carburetor. It's starting to smooth out now. Turn the meter on. It's bouncing around between 61.8 and 52 hertz. Again, it's kind of missing and sputtering. 129 volt. I don't put too much stock in the meters on the load bank. They've been banged around enough. Don't know how accurate they are. And move a little closer in here. Can you see the amp meter over by the generator? Even with the fan, just the fan, we're drawing 0.6 amps, almost an amp. Put a little bit of 2.6 amps, 4.7, let's double that, 8.6 amps. We're down to 123 and 60.4, 60.5. Bouncing around. That's not much. So let's push these out. 8.9 amps. 12.6 amps, and we're bouncing 60 hertz. 120 volt. Put another 16 amps, 59.7, 119. Alright, so we're a little over 50% load right now. Starting to work. Pretty much right bouncing around 60 hertz. 59.8, 59.9. So we got about 2,000 watts according to the load, the heating element. Let's swap these out. Still 16.7. Let's bring it up and get a little bit more. 20 amps. And we drop 58.4. Yeah, you don't like that. 115. It may improve with just simple runtime. Get the rings broken back in. It'll probably increase the sensitivity of the governor a little bit. Starting to chug now. 23 amps, 110 volt. Oh yeah, she's falling hard. Alright. 20 amps. Take a walk around the set. Still got almost 25 pounds of oil pressure. brushes, that's a good sign. All kinds of crap flying out of that muffler now. I'm getting hit with it in my face. Jeez. Man. Well, I'm tempted to take it right at the 30 amps, but I don't know. I think it needs a little bit more TLC before we really go for broke. 23 amps, 24, 25 amps, but keep falling bad. 55 hertz. Yeah. It won't be too mean to it. Happy at 16 amps. 60 hertz and 120 volts. Load is, yeah, see, no load's a little high now. Yeah, it's bouncing around. Sounds a little noisy to me. Alright. Let it cool down for a little bit and shut it down. The load bank cool off a little bit. Of course, that's, you know, not even half of what this load bank is capable of putting on this thing. 10,000 watt load bank, so. hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Welcome back, everyone. Today, the plan is to get this little Onan genset running. This is a 120 volt AC generator set. It's rated 1,000 watts. It's an Onan Model 10LS. I picked this generator up a few weeks ago. It was listed on Craigslist. It was in Philadelphia, which I work a lot in Philadelphia, so I was able to pick it up on my way home from a job, which was very handy. So, this video is going to be similar to the last Onan genset video, which, if you can kind of see it, it's probably right down there. That was the 305CK genset. I want to do something similar to that video, where we get the unit running, we test it under load, and determine whether or not it needs any further repair, and if it does need further repair, is the unit worth doing further repair on? I want to try to make this video more informative than the last video, especially for those of you that are interested in picking up an old piece of equipment, whether it be a generator or a tractor or a pump, anything really, and are unsure of what to look for when buying a piece, buying an old machine, whether or not you're getting your value, getting your money's worth, and at what point you have to just walk away and say, you know, this is either too much of a project for yourself to handle at the time, or in this case, you know, for myself to handle at the time, or you would end up so far in the hole financially with the project that it didn't make sense to carry it out. Now, for some people, money is no object working on these things. Case in point is the big cat generator that I'm working on. That unit, by the time I'm done, I will likely have more in it than I could get out of it if I wanted to sell it. The thing is, I don't want to sell it. The big cat generator is the kind of project that it doesn't matter what it costs to fix and get running. I just want it to run, and I want to keep it as a collectible piece. This unit I purchased really as a fun little project. Take it apart, see what ails it, get it running, and eventually probably sell it. Not looking to make a profit where I sell it so much so as just I'm looking to, the profit is going to be in the entertainment value of getting the unit running and making this video. So I'm going to cut the video here, and I want to take you and show you the little cart that this unit came on. Well, that it was on when I purchased it. So let's cut that video now. Okay, sorry about the wind noise. I'm trying to block it as best I can. This is the little cart that the Onan 10LS was installed on when I purchased it. I don't really know the history of this little cart. It looks like a combination of factory built and with some homemade accessories. The exhaust system here is obviously not original. It looks like it's 2 glass packs in series to try to silence it a little bit. You can pull that out of here. The fuel tank, I don't know what the deal is with that. It's interesting that it has this little relief that's been stamped into it, and a kind of a lousy paint job, but it's got this little relief that's stamped into it, and when the unit sits on this cart, this relief is actually necessary because the end bell of the generator would contact the tank otherwise. And what is this? Is this Cadillac gas cap? It's very interesting. It's heavy as hell. A little bit of liquid left in there. Let me turn it up. You can see the bottom, the axle and the supports are a casting. Dripping a little bit of fuel there. It's kind of an interesting setup, but it's got like a flat plate bar stock welded frame, so it's interesting. Could be cleaned up and made to be serviceable. Little battery tray here. Seen better days. Well, let's go back inside and get to work on the gens. Okay, let's get back to the things that I look for when I buy a project like this, a used piece of equipment. Something that's typically antique. It's got a lot of years behind it. The first thing I look for is the presence of a data plate or a tag. Something that's going to tell me who made the unit, where the unit was made, what model it is, and what its ratings are. In this case, we have that. It's an Onan model 10LS 1000 watt 120 volt AC generator. Okay, that's the first check off the list. Then I'll start looking the unit over and seeing if it's an engine, seeing if there's a way that I can turn the engine, turn it over, see that it does turn over and it's not locked up. Now, people have varying opinions on whether or not you should rotate a piece of machinery like this, especially something that you don't own, because you can cause internal damage to the genset. Depending on the, or I shouldn't say genset, depending on the piece, depending on how it's constructed internally, if this unit had a valve that was rusted shut, stuck down, and you came over and turned the flywheel and were a little bit excessive, depending on the internal construction, you could say either bend a valve stem, bend a tappet, or break the camshaft or break a tooth on the cam. Now, you kind of have to use your judgment. If you can rotate the engine freely, feel a little bit of drag, that's normal, especially with something that's been sitting a while. You don't want to go crazy, maybe a quarter turn back and forth, that's about it. If it turns and you feel a little bit of drag, that's good. If you feel no drag, well, that could be a good or bad. So, data tag, make sure the thing turns over. Now, if I forgot to mention, if the data tag isn't present, or if it doesn't turn over, that is not necessarily a reason not to buy the piece of equipment. I've bought many things that did not spin or that were locked up tight. And a case in point, the cat gen set again. Now, I've also bought things that were missing the tag. I tried not to do that very often. Having the data tag is very important for me. But all those two things aside, next thing I look at is how complete the unit is overall. If it's, take this one for example. Does it have the rope starter cup on the front of the flywheel? You might not be able to see that from where you're at. Does it have the air filter? Does it have the carburetor? Does it have a fuel pump? Is the sediment bowl for the fuel pump there? Does it have an exhaust system? Obviously, I cut that exhaust system off here. In case like this, various accessories like the thermostatic governor here, that moves. Ignition, what's that look like? This one has a replacement wire on it, which is actually coming out of the wrong location. This hole, I believe, should be just plugged, and the spark plug lead should come out here. Being this is an electric start model. Things like, is the ammeter glass cracked? The charge rate control knob, is that there? Does the governor linkage move freely? Is the governor linkage complete? Is the carburetor original? Things like that. Little accessories like the fuel fill, the fuel cap, or not, the oil fill and the oil cap. Looking over the unit further, let me take you off the tripod here. Various cast components like the end bell, is that in one piece? Is it broken out? Are things missing on it? I didn't notice this when I first looked at it. See, there's a little piece of cast missing from this cover. Not the end of the world. Then you move on to the internals of the generator and the controls. What's that look like? Is there a mouse nest in there? Is there corrosion? This, looks like it was sitting in a damp place for a while. There's no serious corrosion, no real evidence of mouse intrusion. It's really not that bad overall, just a little dirty. Has it been repainted? This unit has, a time or two. Looks like we got green paint over some yellow paint. It was probably a very dark green originally. Here's that rope starter sheave. Now, one thing I also didn't notice when I bought the unit, wasn't taking my own advice, is you got some welds here. So, looks like this cast iron sheave for the rope must have split at some point. This bolt also does not look original. Here's that important data plate that I mentioned earlier. If it's a gen set, what's the condition of the exterior of the generator? Does it have a receptacle or any kind of wiring attached to it? One thing I should have mentioned earlier, if it is a gen set, you only want to turn the unit about a quarter turn in either direction. In case you got a brush that's dragging or anything hung up in the generator end. Overall, that's about it. Really, I look for units that are pretty well complete. I don't like to buy things that are missing a lot of parts. If the engine's locked up or it has some generator issue, burned up wiring, I don't mind that so much as missing parts. Because if you needed to locate this air filter or this air intake elbow or odd little things like that, this combination intake exhaust adapter, a cylinder head, if you had cracked or chipped fins on the cylinder head, missing generator end belt cover, those kind of things would make me not buy the unit. I would spend more time and money, and I'd probably have to buy a whole nother gen set to get the part I was missing. It's very unlikely you're going to find just this intake exhaust component laying on a table at a swap meet somewhere. You'd probably find a whole nother unit, and if you got lucky, it would have this part, but it would be missing another part. Some people don't mind doing that. Some people don't mind the hunt for parts. I don't typically care for that. I used to do it. I used to buy a thing missing parts and either make the parts or spend time trying to find them. But I find that I don't have the time to do that anymore. I want something that's complete that I can repair and then operate. So let's get into the teardown and the serious analysis of this unit and determine what it's going to need to be running again. Alright, now the fellow that sold me this generator told me that he thinks it'll run without too much difficulty, but the spark is weak. So, we're going to have to, that's going to be a bit of a pain, isn't it? We're going to have to get the engine to turn over freely, pull the flywheel off, and inspect the ignition points, test the condenser and all that. Try to determine why it doesn't have any spark. Now, being a generator, I'm going to block your view for a sec here. Being a generator, I want to remove the brushes or lift the brushes off of the slip rings and the commutator before I go spinning it around excessively. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't want to score up anything in the generator end. Let's take you off the stand and take a look in there. A little dark and dirty, but normal. Don't have any fins broken off of the generator cooling fan here. That's a plus. Just typically, pop the brushes out, set the spring back in the brush holder, let the brushes dangle there. That one might be a bit of a pain. I think I'll have to get a little pick or a hook to get that spring off. And then you got the ones on the DC commutator here, kind of hiding. Let me pull those off, and then we'll move over to taking the fan shroud off. Alright, now I should just say lifting those brushes off the slip rings and the commutator can be a bit of an exercise in patience, but it's definitely worth it to avoid damaging anything. So what I'm going to do is pull off this air filter assembly. Shouldn't be too difficult. This whole thing was kind of loosely assembled anyway. Spark plug out, see what that looks like in there. careful you don't chip any of these fins here. Yeah. Looks like that didn't do too much running. Well, the guy did say he couldn't get spark out of it. Got a Healy coil in the spark plug hole there. Or a thread repair insert. Quite a number of fasteners missing from this thing. A little mismatched looking as well. Not the end of the world. Wrench for that. Almost looks like that shroud's meant to be able to be, or it's meant to be lifted straight off. But this big cast piece here is in the way. Just take the bolt all the way out. Side of the shroud is nice. Engine turns through without any issue. Feels smooth. Feels like it has good compression too. Let's throw the spark plug back in just for the heck of it. This is the first time I've actually spun this engine over all the way. Wow. That's excellent compression. Very good. You know, looking at those brushes, I didn't show this, but they look like they have either been replaced or they have very little running hours on them because they're almost the full length they would be if they were new. Just for the hell of it, let's just see what the spark looks like. I don't see anything there. Okay, well, one thing we might try first is look at the kill wire here. I'm going to disconnect that. Let's see where that's going real quick. Down there to terminal number 2. Let's see if I can disconnect that. Pull that wire out. Now that the magneto's ungrounded, let's see if we have spark now, just to make sure it isn't something foolish, like, or not foolish, but something in the control wiring that's giving us no spark. Nope, still nothing. Alright, let's get that flywheel off. I gotta get a few more tools and we'll be back in a... Okay, let's see about taking this flywheel off. Got a 5/16 Allen bolt here, Allen screw. Take a closer look at that repair on the rope sheave here. A couple of weld beads there. And on the back. It did a nice job. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Just a repair. Happens. Put the bolt back in most of the way. Won't tighten it, of course. Back it out a few turns. Screwdriver in behind the flywheel just to put a little bit of... What I'm doing is putting the blade of the screwdriver in this gap here, and I'm rotating it, trying to rotate the screwdriver. That's drawing the end play out of the crankshaft in this direction. So then what I'm going to do is strike the head of this bolt with the brass hammer here. That should dislodge the flywheel off of its taper on the crank. Should take more than a few taps. I feel like it's loose. Bolt's still loose. I feel like it hopped off there. There it is. Back side of the flywheel. Magnets. Ooh, they feel pretty weak. That's not a great sign. Take a look at the hub. Hub of the flywheel doesn't look like it's cracked. Looks like it's had a little trauma in the past. Right there. Feels okay. Take a look at the taper on the generator, on the crankshaft. Oh boy, definitely some trauma there. Look at that. Wow. What happened to this thing? Wow, it's like somebody put a pair of pliers on it or something. That's not great. We'll have to dress that up with a file. Take those high spots off. Let's take a close look at the magneto now. Got our coil, spark plug lead, our ground wires going up to a screw there for the condenser. Our primary lead, primary winding lead, going to the points and condenser there. Take a close look at the points. They're open right now. Alright, I'm going to take all this apart here. Sorry. Take the condenser off, take the points off, isolate the wiring for the coil. We'll test the coil, test the condenser, and clean the points. See if we can get spark out. Alright, now the points have been removed. We can take a closer look at the contacts. Look at the stationary and the movable point here. They look good. They've got corrosion and dirt on them, of course, but they should clean up just fine. Let's use the meter here and check the primary and secondary coil resistance. The primary and secondary coils, one end of each coil terminates here, and this is grounded to the engine frame. We'll check the primary first. You see the meter still? Yeah. Okay. Good idea to check your lead resistance first. Yeah. About what I expect. Pretty much no resistance, or very, very low resistance to the primary coil. And then we'll check the secondary coil. Keep one lead on the ground and put the other lead on the end of the spark plug wire. Kind of hook it in there. 6.8 K, so 6,800 ohms. That sounds about right. Anything in my experience with small engines, anything in the 5 to 8,000 ohm range for a small magneto coil like this is typically just fine. You know what, while we're here, let's take a look at that condenser. Almost forgot about that. Meter has a handy capacitance function on it. Can you see that display? Yep. Set the condenser down here. You know what, let's short it out. I'm sure it doesn't have any kind of charge in it, but never hurts to short it out. Is that 0.9 microfarad? 800 nanofarad? Well, 0.8 nanofarad. Yeah. It should be 0.2 microfarad, so that's shot. That's way out of spec. So, let's go ahead and clean the points up, and we'll work on figuring out how we can put a new condenser in there, because I do not think I have one in this package size with this mounting flange and the threaded stud. Gonna have to get creative there. Alright, here's a look at our reassembled magneto. The points are reinstalled and gapped to 18 thousandths. I cleaned up the taper on the nose of the crank here. Just took the high spots off. I don't know what in heck could have caused the divots in there, but cleaned up now. Replaced the condenser. I have a whole slew of these universal 0.22 microfarad condensers, capacitors, whatever you want to call them. And I made a little strap out of copper, sheet copper, to hold it in there. In lieu of the stud that the old condenser had, that stud right there, I just took the one lead from the new condenser, heat shrinked it, brought it over with a terminal, and used a little screw, a number 6 screw and a nut to kind of cinch all those leads together. And it kind of just, it floats right here. It's